And you're back with the Rocket Right Show. I'm Dr. Kay Solar in the house with Hurricane Betsy Barnes.
Happy Hurricane Betsy Barnes.
That's right. She just keeps adding those adjectives.
That's
and
right.
Our medical segment is brought to you each week by Mary Bird Perkins, Our Lady of the Lake Cancer Center. And today, you got me to interview Betsy. How about that?
I do. I'm excited.
I am the expert doctor in-house. How about it?
Listen, Kay Solar knows more things about health than we could even cover in 6 years. So this is it. So I always learn something.
I try to keep reading.
Yeah, and I actually always feel a little healthier after we talk, because she'll kind of, calm me down if I'm concerned about some sort of symptoms. Not like I'm a hypochondriac, but we all have our concerns that we don't really go to the doctor about all the time. But one of the biggest concerns, and I think that, people's health and their weight was a big factor in comorbidity issues related to COVID.
Of course it was,
and they still are, because, as we're reminded daily, COVID has not completely gone away. There's different strains, but we can't live in fear. So I'm not advocating living in fear. I am advocating whatever you need to do for your body type, for your lifestyle. If you need to lose weight, and if you do, we all do. If you need to lose some weight to improve your health, this might be the segment that you need to listen to.
Well, I think, and we talked about this in a previous show, because there's some alarming studies coming out about, as a society in America, how obese we are getting, and especially even in children. Some of that is like learned behavior.
Yes.
And from their parents, which is just leads to lots of comorbid issues, not just an increased risk for COVID-19 and the consequences thereof, but other things that we have forgotten about during this COVID time: heart disease, diabetes, all of those things that reduce our longevity. And what we want to do is we want to have a healthy life. We want to live to be old, but we want to be able to function at that age and have a good life. And so
old, wise, and healthy.
Yeah, and so a lot of those things, you've got to take charge of that. In one of those studies that we looked at, they polled a lot of people, and they said they were just happy with their weight. Now, there's something about saying being happy in your own skin and being happy with your weight, but if you're thinking about reducing your medical issues,
right,
and improving
absolutely.
your longevity, it's not the number on weight, which is what we want to focus on, but it is some lifestyle changes. And if you are overweight, you will see that number come down, and a lot of health issues improve. But I think that people get in the habit of thinking that diets, and I want to get to this number, and then I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing.
Right.
And the whole thing is making changes so that you have a better life.
Right. And, cholesterol has a lot to do with that. Heart disease is so prevalent here. Cancer in Louisiana is very prevalent. Although, we have great treatment facilities like Mary Bird Perkins, Our Lady of the Lake Cancer Center. We don't want to have to go into treatment if we can prevent that early on by diet, because food is medicine.
Absolutely.
It is.
And a lot of those health issues that you just mentioned, you can reduce your chance of developing them if you follow a healthy lifestyle diet. Now, there's been a lot in the news, which is why I wanted to talk about intermittent fasting. And so, there's so many different types, and I've had people ask me, so what type of intermittent fasting? I mean, which one works? Does it even really work? And sometimes that's called time-restricted eating. So you eat during a particular window of time, and you fast during a particular period of time. And there was one study that recently came out called the TREAT trial, which is not that you didn't treat yourself and have treats on it. I'm just saying it was. But TRE stands for time restricted eating.
Oh, okay.
So what they did, they looked at people in the study, and they put them into two different groups, and they were only looking at weight loss. But they said, okay, on the time-restricted eating, you would eat from noon to 8 p.m. And
so you could eat during that time?
You could eat during that time as much as you wanted. And then from 8 p.m. to noon the next day was your fasting period. And then they compared that to a group of people who did consistent meal times. So 3 structured meals per day. And they really didn't see a huge difference. There was maybe a 1 to 3% weight loss during those times. But I think the big key when people look at that is that there's more to it than just time-restricted eating. Because if you restricted your time and you ate nothing but Twinkies, it's not going to be any better, right? Right. So what you've got to do, and it is a great thing because there's a lot of other physiologic changes that go on when you have these periods of fasting in your body. But you've also got to make sure that you look at your dietary quality.
Right.
And that you improve some caloric reduction, during that time. You
can't live on kettle chips and
M&Ms. Cannot live on M&Ms and kettle chips. And even if you do have some, you've got to look at the quantity of those. So, but I think, the biggest thing is that we want to live longer. And this is one of the modalities that you can look at. So the most popular is the one that they looked at. The 16-8 means you fast for 16 hours and you eat for 8 during the day. There's also, you'll see 18-6, 24, which means you fast for 20 hours and you eat for 4. So maybe it's from 2 to 6 p.m. because, of course, the earlier you eat, the better.
So is this coupled with keto, or instead of keto, can you do keto during intermittent fasting and then have better results maybe?
You can do any type of diet. Like if you're a paleo, if you're a vegetarian, you can do that during. But yes, it does work if you look at your macros, and that's a whole nother topic that we'll get into, what are macros.
Because I'm confused by the whole macro.
Right, but bottom line is, if you do lower your carbs during that time, then you're going to be much better off and you're going to have better results. And that's just, in general, for weight loss. There's also different types of modified fast, like the 5-2, where for 5 days a week you eat normally, and then for 2 days you restrict your calories or do a modified fast. Or like, and I was told by a cholesterol expert, because I've mentioned it before, I have a hereditary cholesterol issue, to do 7 days once a month of 700 calories, or 5 days once a month of 500 calories for women, 600 for men, and you restrict your carbs during that time. And the rest of the time, you eat a sensible diet. And all those things have been shown to make some physiologic changes in your body when you do that. They've shown improvements in blood pressure, your resting heart rate, and I can tell you that if you restrict your carbs, and on times when I'm doing intermittent fasting, I've showed you this Oura Ring, which is another topic, but it definitely shows a lower resting heart rate. If you have a carb meal, if I ate 3 pieces of pizza one night, I'm telling you, my heart rate would be elevated. My numbers would not look good. So you can follow and see how the diet affects you. And it's always best to kind of ease into those things. You don't want to say, I'm going to fast for 20 hours and only eat for 4. You probably don't want to start with that one if you're used to eating. You want to start slowly. And everybody, something works different for them. You want to start slowly and gradually improve those things. But, we do know, and we've seen in studies, that when you fast, it improves your blood sugar regulation, it lowers your inflammatory markers, it increases your resistance to stress, and all of those things help us live longer.
And people that I've known that have done intermittent fasting, you and others, say they feel better. They don't feel as bloated, their digestion system is working better, and they felt good about it because they're hydrating the entire time. They're
absolutely not, you do have to have plenty of water. During that time.
So if you're drinking lots of water and you're not as hungry because your body's hydrated, then the amount of food you're going to eat is going to be less, as long as it's what your body needs. Is that right?
And part of it is you want to have good quality food, like we said. So if you're doing that, you want to have lots of greens and veggies. And so when I do the modified fast, I'm at dinner, I'm going to have a big plate of multicolored greens with some pickled veggies on top of that, and maybe a piece of protein. That bulk fills you up, but it's still low in calories, and it's good in the quality of food.
And then you're going to be not as hungry later.
Absolutely.
Because your body has what it needs.
Absolutely.
I just find that also, too, your sugar can go up and down based on what you're eating. But if you're eating fresh, green vegetables, you're eating the right amount of protein. This is not about deprivation. It's more about balance.
It's about balance. It's about eating things that are good for your body. Because if you have a donut when you break fast, you're going to have a big sugar crunch afterwards. Plus, you're going to have a sugar spike and then a big drop. So.
Sure. And that doesn't feel good.
No, that does not.
That does not feel good.
That's why people need to go take a nap after a big meal. Not a good thing to do.
So, Dr. Kay Solar, thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for interviewing me,
And
Betsy.
how can people reach you if they have a question about intermittent fasting?
Well, I think our Facebook page, we would love to get some comments about that. Let us know, have you tried intermittent fasting? What worked for you? On our Facebook page at Rocket Right Entertainment, or you can go to our website anytime, rocketright.com, and get links to everything.
And we read all the messages, we don't screen them. So we'll be glad to have you answer those questions. And then maybe that'll be a topic for another time.
Sounds good, Bets.
We're going to be right back with Jay Hover, and he is with Red Stick Social. Not Red Stick Music, Red Stick Social. It's all about the Red Stick. Hang tight. We'll be right back.